Good old vanilla. The most popular flavor in the United States, it's become so commonplace that it's earned the reputation of being basic. But vanilla is a complex flavor that takes years of cultivation and patience to even produce. Our special guest's favorite flavor is vanilla, and I think it says a lot about him as a crafter and a person. Known on stream as Hansenburgs or Rowboats or even Eric, he's a wood turner from Texas who's been streaming about a year. What comes across as a laid-back southern persona, Hansenburg's knowledge of wood turning was cultivated over many years of work. I'm excited to sit down with a bowl of Grater's Madagascar vanilla bean and chat with the man. I'm Pape, and this is Ice Cream with Streamers. Welcome to the first episode of Ice Cream with Streamers. Off to a roaring start here. So I'm Pape Designs, and I've started this new series, which is an interview series, and where I interview other creative streamers, or just streamers in general. And we have a bowl of ice cream and just chit-chat about life in general. So my first guest today is Hansenburg, or Rowboats, or Eric, as the intro said there. I have my ice cream. Do you have your ice cream there, Robo?
I do.
Should we ice cream cheers?
I think we should.
We're gonna do this really awkward ice cream cheering here. Clink, clink, clink. There we go. Excellent. Working out the kinks with streamers. That's right. So what we got here is we got some Gather's ice cream. I don't know. It is delicious. It's good vanilla ice cream though.
Yeah, I've still yet to take a bite, so I'm about to taste this for the first time. You better not have steered me wrong.
Well, hopefully it's good. I enjoy it. I think it's a good one. But while you're enjoying your first taste there, yeah, it's light. It's got a good rich vanilla. It is actual vanilla. It's not artificial vanilla. Because I thought, yeah, I thought if I was going to go to a synthetic vanilla, that wouldn't be right for you, man. You're full-bodied real vanilla is what you are, my friend.
No imitation vanilla here.
That's right. So, Robo, while I've got you here eating your ice cream, I would like to have you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm known by a variety of names. Hansenburgs is my streaming name and business name for the woodworking business, and a few other things. A lot of people call me Robo, as you've seen, those who've seen on the stream, because that dates back years and years and years for a gaming name, various iterations, but it always starts with Robo. It used to be Rowboats. It's been Robo-Bug, and a few other things over the years. So I'm often called Robo. I'm also called Eric, which is my name, and the Hansenburgs is a combination of my last name, Hansen, and my fiance's last name, Brandenburg, since we do a lot of the business stuff together. So we use the Hansenburg. And someday we'll eventually get married, and I think we'll both change our names to Hansenburg.
Oh, you think you're going to actually change it to Hansenburgs then?
I mean, I'm
that's nice.
not going to have kids, so carrying on the family name's not going to happen. So might as well just do whatever we want. And there's a million Hansens out there anyway.
So sure. I mean, there's got to be some Hansenburgs as well. I run into the same problem with Papes. There's 8 billion of us too, so which is funny because the planet doesn't have 8 billion people, but yeah. So vanilla ice cream, my friend. Why vanilla? I was kind of curious.
Honestly, I think it's because growing up, my mom, who I love to death, is very frugal, very cheap. And so she would just buy plain vanilla ice cream, and if we wanted to spice it up, we would just add stuff to it. Usually it was whatever cereal we happened to have in the house. And then that would become the new flavor of ice cream. Because I just grew accustomed to it, had it on a lot of stuff, and I've always just really, really enjoyed the flavor of it. And I never really understood the connotation of, I don't know if that's the right word, the assumption that it always means boring, because I think it's delicious.
And that's the thing, is like vanilla itself is a very robust like flavor combination. And I was doing some research on it for the show here, and it takes 3 years for a plant to even produce a bean pod, which is what vanilla actually is, and then after that, it takes 9 months of care for that bean pod to even be usable as a flavor. And so, but we use it so much, and it can only be like actually produced within like 10 degrees of the equator. I mean, there's so many things that make it difficult, and yet we use it in so much stuff that it's become commonplace. So, as it is a delicious, it's actually one of my favorite flavors as well, because it can be added to, and it's a calming flavor as far as ice cream goes.
Yeah, and this stuff is phenomenal.
It's not a bad ice cream. This is my first time with this
No, this is
brand,
really good.
and it melts really quickly, which is a good sign that it is actually made of real cream and such. So it's
Yeah,
actually
we have
really good.
a little drink there at the end.
Oh yeah, and that'll be delicious. So you mentioned putting cereal into your ice cream as a kid. I mean, is that something that you still do?
Well, to be honest, I don't eat a lot of ice cream anymore. um, as has been documented on my stream for quite a while, I've been on a bit of a weight loss journey. And ice cream's not really all that helpful to that, because normally if I buy some ice cream, I have a tendency to eat all of the ice cream and then buy more. And then, so it's easier for me to just avoid it altogether for the most part. But of course, for special occasions like episode 1 of Ice Cream with Streamers.
Well, I do appreciate that. I too am on the weight loss struggle, as anybody who's familiar with my stream knows. And so this is the first ice cream I've had in about 4.5 months. So it's glorious.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I have, and I would still, particularly granola I like in vanilla ice cream. So if anybody wants to try that, feel free. You don't have to credit me. You can just say you invented that yourself.
I'm a weird heathen. I like to put hot cocoa mix, like powdered cocoa mix, into my ice cream. So it's I don't know why, but it's I don't want chocolate syrup. I think that's too much, but just that hint of.
I can see that.
Anyways, enough about the ice cream. It's the one thing I want to do is just talk to you a little bit about your streaming and what it is that you do. So, is streaming your
No,
full-time gig?
absolutely not. I stream at the most twice a week for only a couple hours a day. So I'd need a lot of bits to make that a full-time gig. As I said, I have a full-time job in healthcare compliance for the man, and I work from home, and I enjoy that quite a bit. And then the woodworking and other things like that is a free time thing. And yeah, I make a little bit of money here on the side, here and there with it. I tend to amass more than I sell, and end up donating, giving away a lot of it, but I enjoy it. It's therapeutic for me. So,
and I think that's a nice thing is to have the hobby that helps. You know, it's the thing that you enjoy doing, but then to share it with other people, as well as creating the pieces that even if you're giving it away, it's going to mean something to people. And I can see here in the background, you've got some of your pieces that you've made kind of hanging out behind you there.
Yeah, this stuff. Yeah, I don't know how that got there.
Yeah, I don't know either here. Behind
me,
me.
Shaving kit. A lot of this was actually most of this stuff was actually made on stream. The painting is obviously not, but my little lightsaber handle there that I tried out. But yeah, I started streaming because I wanted to show kind of what went into what I was doing, and then a little bit of community kind of started around the same time as a lot of people through RSS, the Ready Set Stream. And so a little community started to form there, and it was enjoyable to interact with people while doing it, and so kind of kept that up. My first few streams were actually just on Facebook and had like one person who would stop in for 45 seconds and then leave, and then I switched to Twitch, and that seemed to work a lot better.
Excellent. Yeah, and I mean, the Twitch community has been really helpful for everybody, I think, but especially for the creatives, to allow people to see the amount of work that goes into creating things we would consider simple things like the pens and such that you are turning. People think that it's just something they go out into the garage or into the shop and just kind of whip out really quickly. But there's actually not just time that goes into it, but there's a specific set of skills that you have to be able to do such a thing. I know that primarily you're a wood turner, which means you turn wood on a lathe. And I've done a little bit of that in the past, and I have nicked and gouged the heck out of a lot of good chunks of wood there. So to see you go through it skillfully, and even if, like the other day I was watching you turn down a piece of burl, which I know is notorious for having chunks missing out of it naturally, and then to be able to actually turn it and get a decent smooth finish on that it's quite impressive. Oh, look, he's actually going to bring it out there. So
This is the one. This is that one I was doing. I don't think I can get it to focus very good because this webcam is pretty bad. But yeah, it actually turned out pretty well. I was working on another piece, the same stream, that was not quite so forgiving. So I had to do some repair work on that one. That wasn't my fault. That was the wood's fault. It's never my fault. It's always the wood.
Right. Well, sure. So what was your most memorable moment that's happened on stream so far?
I've had a couple disasters that were fairly memorable. I've had pieces fly off and hit me in the face mask. Been very thankful. I had a piece that was probably about 1.5 pounds of wood.
Wow.
Fly off entirely and hit me in the face mask. That could have done some serious damage. I broke a tool rest and sent that flying. The little piece of steel that I set my cutting tool on broke midstream, and that was quite exciting. But the best was probably when I got my finger in my bench grinder and took a chunk out of the finger on stream. So
holy cow,
that was a good one too. Yeah, I went inside and wrapped it up in toilet paper and tape, and came back out and put a glove on and finished the stream.
Holy cow, man.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Safety third, right? No.
I was getting a little too casual with the cutter sharpening, and because I keep the grinder right next to me on the lathe, or right by my lathe, so I can just reach over and it's got a little jig set up so that the angles are already preset, so I can just really quickly turn it on and sharpen and get back to work. I got a little too casual and just pushed the finger right into a spinning grinder. It made short work of the meat on my finger.
I'm guarantee it. Wow. Okay. So we talked briefly about streaming, like why you actually stream. It was more to kind of get the word out there, like the process and stuff like that. Has that evolved at all since you've gone from working in Facebook to jumping over into Twitch? I mean, has the reasoning behind it, is it more still about showing the process, or is it now more of an educational thing?
I think now it's more of just like a chatting thing, a company thing, just to chat with the folks that I've chatted with before and talk to new folks and share it. I mean, there's a promotional aspect, I guess, for the stuff, because I do try to sell stuff, but I mean, I give away more than I sell and things like that for the most part through stream. So it's not like I'm just trying to push and trying to sell everything I make. So there is some of that motivation there, though, because I only have so much space to store stuff. Eventually I got to do something with it.
Sure. Holiday season's coming up.
Holiday season is coming up, and I do donate a lot to a gift fair that my mother helps run in the town nearby. And so every year I give, maybe 10 pieces or something to that. That goes to support local charities. And you can hear my dog Wicked, I think, in the background.
Yeah, I can.
Barking.
Yeah. What kind of dog you got?
Pugs, Wicket and Sindel.
Pugs, I love pugs.
I bring them on stream sometimes as well. It's kind of a pain to do, but I like to bring them out to the garage, show them, make them wave to the camera, and then put them back. I probably won't do that right now.
No. Well, mine will come eventually because he'll smell the ice cream. So, understandable. So the wood turning. How did you get into that? I mean, do you have a background in it? Is it something that you just picked up from Eagles?
When I lived in Seattle, which I did for about 13 years, we bought a house that had a freestanding garage, and we didn't need it for the car. So I was like, oh man, I'm going to become a woodworker. This is going to be awesome. And I bought a whole random assortment of things that didn't really make any sense. I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't make anything of note. And then, but like the itch was there. I was like, I want to be good at making stuff. And then we decided to move back to Texas, where I'm from originally. And when I was here, I was like, man, I gotta focus in. I'm, just buying random things that don't really go together and don't do anything isn't working. So I started looking around online, and I saw, people talking about making stuff on a lathe, and that you could get little benchtop lathes that are, they're only 2 feet long, 2.5 feet long, sit there, don't take up a lot of space, and the variety of things you can make is quite good. So I did some research and watched YouTube videos, poked around on Facebook and the internet, and decided that's maybe the way to go. So I bought a lathe even before we had our house. I bought a lathe when I was staying with my mom and just kept it in their barn. Didn't unbox it or anything like that until we got here and got set up in the garage and dove in. So I've been doing it for about 4 years now, something like that.
Oh,
so I'm not super experienced in it, but I dove in pretty head first, as I tend to do with things when I decide I want to do it.
Well, and I've seen some of the work that you've produced. I mean, it's pretty impressive stuff. I mean, even for what you would consider, quote unquote, a novice. So, about how many hours do you think you've got into the woodworking?
Oh, that's not a question I was prepared to think about. I mean.
Oh, the only reason that I ask is because they say you hit about, you become an expert in your field after about 10,000 hours.
I'm sure I'm nowhere close to that. Maybe 1,000, a couple thousand. I don't know.
But I'm looking at the quality of the work that you produce.
And I try really hard to make the piece. I'm fairly picky. I have some pieces though where by the time I'm done with it, like I don't care if it's right. Like I just am tired of working on this particular piece. So I'll get it. I've been down the good enough road several times. But for the most part, I'm willing to redo, particularly where I mess them up is in the finishing process. Many times I have thought I finished, decided I hated it, and sanded all the finish off and started again. So I like to think that I'm capable of producing a piece beyond my experience if I really, really want to.
I actually have one of your yo-yos. I believe I won it as a giveaway, I think, on your stream. And it sits up here. My children love it. Hey, you got one behind you there too. So you got a couple of them. Look at that.
Little yo-yo.
Yeah, they're really nice. I got mine sitting over here.
My Harry too. I like making those too.
Oh, that's pretty.
I like making these little things that are fairly quick. It's a single. Well, this one's glued up, but I bought it glued up. I didn't do the glue up, so it was a single piece when I got it. And you can just turn it in about 20 minutes or so, and it's fun. And then this one I'll end up putting in that gift fair for kids to buy for cheap.
Oh, that's really nice. So now with the streaming thing, I mean, talking to people is, I would say, 80% of the stream. I mean, you're doing the work that you're doing, but you're having to talk with people and stuff like that. Were you a real outgoing person? Are you a real outgoing person? Or are you more like the wallflower, and then the Twitch thing's kind of been helpful in that?
So I've gone kind of full circle on that. In my younger days, I'm 35, almost 36. But in my teens and 20s, you couldn't stop me from talking to people and seeking people out. As I've gotten older, I've done less and less of that and become less outgoing, more introverted probably. And so there's definitely a social and outgoing aspect there where it feels a little more comfortable because there's a little bit of a barrier there with the internet and the camera and things like that. So I think, yeah. So I think that that pretty much covers that. I've kind of lost my train of thought.
Choo choo. Have you gotten any awards or any kind of recognition for the what type of work that you do? The wood turning and
I don't know
stuff?
about awards. I do know that primarily through that gift fair, my stuff has quite an international reach.
Oh,
I know
nice.
there's a couple of people that buy through, and it's through a church that my mother's church that runs the gift fair. But one person buys a few of my pieces every year and gives them as gifts to sister churches in places like Russia and Africa, and different countries in Africa, Kenya, and I want to say maybe in the Congo or Sudan, one of those two. Um, they had sent pieces there, so I kind of like that my stuff is all over the world now. So there's something nice about that.
Absolutely. That's awesome, man. That's there's some kid halfway around the world that's playing with a top made by rowboats and doesn't even know it, but I mean that's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah,
So that's it. To me, like in the creating of things, especially gifty type things that you give out, I always kind of feel like I've got a little bit of Santa Claus running through me, and that hopefully I'm bringing a smile to someone. So I think that's awesome,
for
man.
sure.
Let me see. So you've been streaming for about a year now. I think we all pretty much started at the same
Yeah, give or
time.
take a month or so.
Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty good. Is this something that you think you continue to do?
Yeah, I really enjoyed having a break this summer. I did miss it to some degree, but it just gets so hot here in Texas that my garage is unbearable, and
Sure.
I'm not willing to fork over the money to cool it. Um, so I did like having the break. There's something to be said for not having a schedule. Um, that's probably the thing I like the least about streaming is all the things that you need to do to make it really successful, like keep a good schedule, stream a lot, which I don't do. Um, so so yeah, I would like to keep going at it. Though once or twice a week, it will probably be the most that on a really really good week. Someday you might get three. Um, but yeah, I think that works well for me. A few hours on the weekend. It's not a time that's super common for other people within the community. Every so often, you'll come up with some random Sunday stream, or Greek will do the same. But uh, for the most part, it's not a particularly busy time, and so I think that niche works well for me.
Sure.
Um, and so,
Nice.
I like to go out and go fishing in the morning, and then I'll come home, eat a little something, and go grab a drink, and then stream for a few hours, and then be exhausted for the rest of the
I
day.
think that as a casual, you'd be considered what's, a casual streamer. It's not something you're not trying to pursue this as a full-time job, so I don't think it's absolutely necessary for you to have the strictest of schedules or anything like that. So I think if it's bringing you joy, because once it becomes a job and it loses that aspect of joy, I think that it would be, it would be less fun for you. So I mean, I think that's perfectly acceptable. And like you said, it's after fishing, come back, have a break, and then go on and do something fun.
Yeah, yeah. So it's that schedule's working well for me so far.
Excellent. So, how long have you been like creating stuff? Like, I know you said about 4 years for the woodcraft, but I see you've got paintings in the background there as well. I mean, obviously, art's kind of like part of who you are. So, about how long have you been
It
at that?
is part of who I am, but it's taking me a really long time to figure out how to get there. I've always had this urge to create or to do something, but I'm not a natural at it by any means. I cannot draw. I can barely write legibly. Like my hand, like I'm not. I attribute this, and this might get a little weird. Um, so I don't have what I consider a visual memory. Like, so when I remember something, I don't picture things well in my mind. Um, Instead, I kind of remember a description, so to speak.
Okay.
And so I think that has been difficult for me to then translate what I think into something visual. which is what led me to woodwork, where that's not quite as important as, say, drawing or painting. The painting is wait, which side? Yes, this side. Painting is relatively new as well, and that's mostly inspired by watching the Weekend Bob Ross streams. Um, and where I don't really need to picture anything, I can just kind of go as it goes. It's kind of the way it just does it in the layers. I don't need to have something pictured ahead of time. It can just kind of develop as it goes. And so that works well for me, because if somebody said, hey, I need you to paint this thing or draw this thing, it would look like a 5-year-old did it with his eyes closed. It's pretty rough. And so I've dabbled in a lot of things over the years. Spent a lot of money buying random things that I think will be that thing, but the woodworking seems to have stuck, and the painting feels like it's going to be on its way there as well. So maybe I'll have two. And my poor ukulele is just going to continue to gather dust.
Well, I think that the painting would actually be a nice respite from the woodworking, especially during the hot months. Because I know you were making fishing lures for a while there too.
It kind of transitioned from that, because I was buying paints and stuff for the fishing lures, and then, after watching you, I bought some Sculpey and was buying that, and I bought some paints to paint those, and so that was fun too. I still have some that I need to paint, but then I was like, wait, if I've got all these paints, why don't I buy a canvas and see what I can do? And so it's kind of all transitioned from one to the other. It's been a fairly smooth transition. The woodworking into making wood fishing lures that are painted, and then trying to make fishing lures out of Sculpey, and then saying, okay, those don't work very well, but then I can do a little sculpture and paint that, and then I've got the paints, and then now I've got canvas, and now I'm painting my canvas. So, direct line from woodworking to painting.
It is. I mean, art is fluid, and I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, is that you've got to keep the, whatever is inspirational to you and keeping you doing the art. I think that's the important thing to take away from it. I noticed that with your Bob Ross style paintings there. I mean, they look nice. I like from
it. They're really good from a distance.
Well, I think any art under scrutiny of closeness has its share of issues. So I think, but I like the layout and such. I think it looks pretty good. So there was a note that I would like to read out loud. Somebody did say, "Don't let artists lie to you. Visualization is a skill that is developed," and that is 100%. So, and while you are working on the wood turning and stuff, I mean, there's a certain amount of art that you're seeing and visualization that you're seeing there, but I can see that it's transitioning very well into your painting. So you're getting it. Just practice.
Yeah, probably gonna win.
So, what's something that's interesting about you that we may not know, besides that you like to throw things at your face while wood turning?
They may not know. People kind of know about the fishing thing now. I have, in my youth, I say youth again, up through maybe the mid-20s, I've been fairly well traveled. I've been to Europe several times, and a handful of countries Europe, and I've been to a couple countries, 3 countries in Africa as well.
Nice.
But now the thought of flying that much makes me very anxious. And so I kind of grew out of it. I used to be fine. I mean, when I flew to Africa, I think I was a little anxious because I took a sleeping pill and drank a little mini bottle of red wine and woke up in Africa, so that worked. But yeah, so I used to get something from that, but now the thought of it, like, I still like the idea of it, but the thought of the practical aspect of it just makes me very nervous. I don't know why.
It's definitely more cattle call now. It feels like you're loading yourself up on a cattle truck as opposed to actually going somewhere nice.
Yeah.
And then lastly, do you see yourself streaming in 3 to 5 years? And if so, are you trying to build a brand, or is it just something that's you think is just going to maintain as a hobby?
3 to 5 years. So, if I had my way, 3 to 5 years from now, I'm going to go towards the 5, and I'll be in a different house that we have built custom with a freestanding separate wood shop. So that would lead you to believe that I could maybe stream very well. The problem is where we'd be looking to build this, the internet is like 10 years behind what it would be in the city. Because it's quite about, hopefully by the time we get out there, it's better. So the streaming may not end up being a reality out there because it's a line of sight from a tower, it's wireless internet from line of sight towers, and it's pretty spotty. But the land out there would essentially be free because it's family land. So that's the trade-off, you know.
But there's no people, so you know that's a,
that's
a nice thing.
And so I would like to be. I think that if everything lined up well, I would like to, you know, still probably on the same super casual schedule, because I do think, you know, woodworking has stuck longer than just about any other hobby besides video game playing. So I feel like it's got some longevity that my previous hobbies have not. So I like to think that I'll still be plugging away at it then.
Now you just said gaming. I didn't know you were a gamer too. So is that something that you stream as well?
Well, when I first set up my Twitch account and stuff, I used my gamer name because I thought I would be streaming video game playing. And I did a few game streams here and there with essentially no success at all, because I'm not particularly good.
I can relate.
And then the woodworking streams were much more popular, and so I just said, you know what, I'll just play the games casually when I have time. So, but I've been playing video games since pretty much my first experience with online games was in high school. I was in a drafting club, like AutoCAD drafting, and after our annual competition was done, our class kind of got really easy because the teacher stopped caring. And so we would load this game called Delta Force onto the computers in the drafting lab, and we'd have LAN parties instead of doing our work. So that was my first experience playing games. And then when I went to college and discovered true high-speed internet, I almost flunked out the first year, my freshman year, because I discovered how fun Counter-Strike and Warcraft 3 and a few other games could be. And I literally skipped half my classes to play video games. It was real bad. I got a lot better after that. I found the balance eventually. But yeah, so I've been playing since I was 18, almost 36 now. So.
Wow. So good on that. All right. So we're going to open it up to some questions here. I know that we've had a few of them here in chat that kind of popped by here. So let me see if I can scroll up to some of them. If I miss your question, please feel free to pop it back then at the bottom so that I can find it easier here. So the question that we had right off the bat was, how do you think traveling changed you as a person and as an artist? That's from Biska.
So as a person, I think that there's definitely some value to experiencing different cultures, particularly, I think more so for lack of a better term, the poorer cultures, to see how people live who, don't have everything that we have, and to see that they can still, we kind of think that they're going to be miserable all the time because they don't have the things we have. But when you're there, they're not. They're happy. They might struggle, but they just don't have the same concerns that we do. And so they still, and it's eye-opening to see that they're perfectly happy without all of the luxuries that we're accustomed to.
Good to know.
But as an artist, I wasn't really much of an artist then, so it's hard to say.
All right, so it used to be that family handed down these kind of skills and hobbies, but as a society, it seems that we don't do that kind of thing much anymore. How do we think kids get exposed to crafting and art like the work you do? So, how do you think kids basically get exposed to crafting and art like you see?
Well, I think that well, for one, YouTube and Twitch and things like that are a good medium for it. Um, it maybe it's kind of hard to find, but it's available. So the knowledge and the skills and the ability to learn is easier than it's ever been in history, as best I can tell. But I think it will be up to parents to cultivate that interest and to support that interest. And my folks were always very supportive of whatever I wanted to do, but whatever I wanted to do was always being stupid in the backyard pretending to do kung fu. And so maybe they shouldn't have supported that quite as much as they did. But so growing up, I missed out on a little bit. That that's what if that's what you want to do, go ahead, go be down in the backyard. That's fine. But my dad is a career musician, so there was always a support for that. I played trumpet in high school. I never picked up guitar like my dad is. That's his specialty. But music was always promoted and encouraged. And I think that there's something from that when you get accustomed to producing art, whether it's music or visual, then it becomes easier to be interested in the other types.
Definitely. And just so we can shout it out here, we're actually using your father's music as the intro music. So the music that underlays the scooping of the ice cream at the top of the show there, that actually is your dad. So I think that's awesome. Let me see. Do we have any other questions for Hansenburgs while we have him here? It says it's only the past couple decades that children are brought into the world because thankfully I'm part of a generation. Anyway, so does anybody else have any other questions for Robo? Well, if we don't, I mean, I do appreciate. Have you ever stuck anything in the wall? Psychosis would like to know. Have you ever stuck anything in the wall? I see.
Not that stayed, but there's a pretty significant dent in the metal back of my workbench, and there's a little gouge in the ceiling.
We've got 2 more questions. Who's your favorite mod, and why is he a tier 1 friend?
Is that Honor Spectre?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Good job, Honor Spectre. He works real hard on my stream modding and doing it. So.
Do either of us like The Walking Dead? First 7 seasons, sure. After that, no.
I watched it for a few seasons. And I like to promote the fact that I lived with the guy who was in the later seasons. Oh. For those who are really hardcore fans, Andy was my freshman year roommate in college. So that's cool. I like to talk about that, but I've really only watched the scenes that he was in.
2 Beers and a Dam wants to know, what is your favorite or most challenging project?
I don't know. Well, I'm quite proud of this shaving set here that I did from cherry, because I cut it all from raw cherry logs that I actually watched get cut down in Arkansas, and then dried it and did. So basically, I've seen the whole thing from the tree falling to the finished product. So it's the cherry shaving brush, the stand, the razor, and then this little bowl here, all from the same tree. That was quite challenging and quite satisfying. But probably the hardest project I did off stream this summer, and that was when I made an urn for my little cat that passed away.
Those personal projects, though. Those are some of the best ones, and and obviously that's something you're going to keep around the house for a while. So it may not be something you necessarily need to share with anybody, but it is definitely one of those projects that means the most to you. And even if it's not the most intricate or whatnot, I think some of my favorite pieces that I've done have been the most simple, but the ones that have had meaning behind them. I understand that.
It's hard to bring everybody down.
No, not at all. Greek's asking a bunch of questions, but I don't know if they're serious or not. Why do you prefer round wood to square wood? I assume
it's really hard to turn things square on a lathe. The corners just
there's your
fall
answer
right off.
right? Insane. Sarah would like to know, what is your favorite type of wood to turn? And which is your favorite due to the grains and the looks when it's finished?
Pretty much across the board. It's local here. The variety of colors and grain patterns that you can get is just phenomenal. It's hard enough to be useful in a variety of applications, but soft enough to still, actually cut with some ease. The way that the branches come out, they don't usually have a lot of voids and inclusions in them, so you can get those the grain patterns from where a branch is out without it, having a big chunk missing, and the bark tends not to grow too much on the inside like some trees do. And then the sapwood tends to be really yellow, and the inside tends to be brownish red, and sometimes if you're really lucky, you can get a really deep red out of it, and it's just beautiful.
Nice.
And it takes a polish really, really well.
Excellent. And then let's see here. We've got, do you have an interest in building alternate lathes, like a pole lathe or a billows lathe?
I have an interest in people building them. I don't see myself building one because I'm pretty lazy. But I'm glad that other people do, and I really like watching videos of people making them.
Sure.
But it's not anything I see myself doing.
Nice. And then lastly, I don't know how I can say it without him hearing it correctly there. Greek wants to know if you can pronounce the word G-Y-R-O.
Oh, gyro? Gyro? No. I just say gyro. I know I always joke and say gyro in your stream and stuff. But when I pronounce it, I say gyro. Which is probably still not exactly right, but I think it's probably closer than you expected.
I think
but fair. I think, and for lunch, I'm going to have a Mexican gyro, which is also known as a burrito.
Hey, there you go. All right, well, I'd like to thank you, Robo, for joining me here. Hansenburgs, Robo, Eric, whatever you want to go by. Thank you for joining me today, man. Thank you for
it's been fun.
And giving me this nice bowl of ice cream. Helped me break the keto diet.
It's delicious.
Yeah,
good suggestion on the brand.
Yeah, well, I do only the best for the fellows that stop by for the chat here. So, so if you guys don't know, obviously you can follow Robo or Hansenburgs at twitch.tv/Hansenburgs.
A lot of you already do.
Probably. That's okay. We're going to put this up on the YouTube as well, so you can go check them out at their rival, twitch.tv/Hansenburgs, and there'll be a link for that down below as well. And then I am Paul Pape of Paul Pape Designs. You can follow me at twitch.tv/Paul Pape Design. So, I think that's pretty much going to do it for you. So, thank you again. I do really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to from the man and from your wood turning to hang out with me and answer a few stupid questions. But it's good to get to know you.
It was a lot of fun.
So,
it was good. I look forward to the episodes where I can actually just watch.
instead of actually having to be part of the stream. So nothing wrong with that at all. So thank you everybody for joining us. Join us next week, same bat time, same bat channel, for some more Ice Cream with Streamers.